a legend of one man who persuaded his friends to watch every Godzilla movie ever made. This world is on the brink of destruction. We need you now, Godzilla evangelists. Godzilla Evangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast. Produced and hosted by Ryan Sargent. Featuring Sam Schlenker and Joanna Brodecki. Today's show features a Korean snack bar, and it just looked so great. I have to know, if you guys could pick one item from that snack bar to eat right now, what would it be?
Well, as people close to me know, I'm a big whole milk advocate. So when that little boy mentioned banana milk, it spoke to me. And I do have strawberry milk in my refrigerator right now. So hate to gross anyone out who can't drink dairy, but that'd be my go-to.
You're going for that banana milk.
Yeah, it sounded tasty as fuck.
I used to work with someone who would walk around the office drinking a full glass of milk, and it really freaked people out. Like, people were unsettled by it.
You don't want to do it in the office, that's for sure. In the safety of your own home.
Right, yeah, you got to keep that at home.
Nobody wants to partake in that.
Milk is like clowns in that they were entirely wholesome, but now no one can see them as wholesome.
Now it does freak people out. Yeah.
Milk is like clowns.
What about... yeah. We're off to a great start.
Another great
what other snacks do other people want to eat?
yeah. Shout them out.
I for sure would love a steaming cup of ramen. And the great thing about the Koreans' way of making ramen is you can put other stuff in it. Cheese. You can cut up pieces of sausage. You can crack an egg in there. So especially on this rainy day, that sounds very delightful.
A piece of cheese on top of it sounds so good. Ugh.
Yeah, I love a loaded ramen, as you might put it. So that was very tempting for me. However, it is implied that they have fried chicken there. So I'm absolutely gonna have fried chicken. That's an option.
Oh, fried chicken and beer, chimek, as they call it. That's the ultimate combination.
Oh, then, I mean, you guys took all my favorites, so I'm going to have to go with the 10th tentacle that's been in that guy's pocket.
That was a close second to my banana milk. But Sam, I'm glad that you...
You know what? I am curious to try that quickly grilled squid. So
flat.
I had never heard.
So impressive.
I had never heard that the longest tentacle is the tastiest one, but that is kind of implied by the grandfather.
That's the wisdom of an old snack bar owner. He knows. Right. He has the experience to know people enjoy that one the most. Anyway, welcome to Godzilla Evangelists.
Woo!
I'm Ryan, and I'm here with my co-hosts Sam and Joanna.
Hello.
Hi.
And we've also got a returning guest I'm so excited to have back, writer and editor at Netflix's To Doom, Natalie Moran. Yay.
Hi, so glad to be back.
Yes, I was just going to ask, how does it feel to be back in the world of Korean monsters?
Oh, fantastic. You know, I think every year I need to be pulled back, just as the monster in the host pulls people back into the Han River. I need to be doused back in, or else I dry up too much on land.
Nat, where's your t-shirt at?
You know, you're so right. I forgot. I have a Bong Hive t-shirt with a picture of director Bong Joon-ho holding up his Oscars. And yeah, I made a big mistake by not wearing it today, and I'm so sorry.
It's okay. We'll still allow you on the pod, but maybe next time we can.
So, minor demerit.
I thought you had a Bong Hive shirt from like a smoke shop or something.
No, but it's he still delivers the same kind of feeling from his work.
It's a really good save, and he does.
Is that what you call it when you smoke out the bees when you're beekeeping? A bong hive?
Exactly.
Works.
Another brilliant zinger.
Man, Ryan, you are on it today.
Yeah.
I really am. I'm on
Woo!
Well, today's movie is of a very different breed than almost anything we've ever watched. It's probably the closest to the original Godzilla in that it is primarily a drama, but it's taken to another level. It's really about the people that the giant monster is affecting, although there are still some great giant monster scenes in this. It's The Host from 2006, the international breakthrough from one of my favorite director-writers, and clearly not just mine, director Bong Joon-ho. And if this was a visual podcast, this is where we would cut in the picture of me 19 years old standing next to him looking really nervous and sweaty, but I'll put that on social media.
Wait, where did you see him again?
He visited our film school.
Oh, okay.
It was great. I saw his big short film that got him his first feature. It's very funny. Yeah.
He seems
as far
like
as
a
I
good
could tell,
dude.
he was a nice guy. He looks uncomfortable to be standing next to me, though.
Well, Ryan, at that time we all were.
Hey, don't play on my insecurity.
I'm sorry. You set me up. No, from all we can tell, he seems like a very pleasant man, Bong Joon-ho.
And for that, he gets 10 extra bonus points on The Host as well.
10
That's
extra
right.
tentacles.
In addition to the points I was already going to give.
Yeah, had all of you seen this before, or was this anyone's first time watch for The Host?
My first time, and
Awesome.
I don't know what I was expecting. Not what I watched, but I really liked what I watched. What's the movie where they're all in Antarctica? Is that
Snowpiercer?
The Host? The what?
Snowpiercer? No.
Snowpiercer.
No, are you thinking of The Thing?
I was gonna say The Thing.
Yeah, I think I thought this was going to be an adaptation of The Thing.
Oh, okay.
No context. Me, not being much in the know on the film world, clearly.
I do remember whenever I would tell people about this in high school, they'd be like, "You mean like the Stephanie Meyer book?"
Oh my god!
Sure.
So
I'm glad that
what
this
the
has
21st
superseded it now.
Yes.
Yeah,
No,
that's
but
what
I had
the
never seen
2013
it,
one
and I was very happy to be watching it. It's listed as a comedy on a lot of platforms.
Horror comedy.
I
Right.
feel like the platforms never know how to assign genres to Bong Joon-ho's movies, because I
Yes.
remember Parasite being in reviews being talked about as a horror movie, and I was like, it's not even, that's like the fourth genre, if any, that I would list it as. Like it's not that. This is a mildly comedic at times, but also dramatic at times. It's just a movie. It's just a movie that hits
Yeah.
all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always said how unclassifiable his movies are in terms of genre, and I love that. I love how they combine all these things that should be so disparate and hard to combine, but they almost always work. I remember it blew my mind as a 14-year-old. I'd never seen anything like this, and at first it was like off-putting, but the more I thought about it, I was like, wow, that was great. I love movies.
It was my first time seeing it, and I've seen a bunch of his other movies, but like Joe, I was kind of surprised by this one in that I found myself looking it up on Rotten Tomatoes because I was like, I have a feeling this is a movie that a lot of people like. Okay, and the moment that happened was the moment that the monster revealed itself in the very beginning. I was like, wait a second. This is a movie that people like, right? And then I looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes, and it was like all these people, the horror / comedy / satire came up, and everyone's like, yes, oh my God, out of this movie. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to strap in longer and just trust that this will reveal a few more surprises, because it was just interesting. It was like so different than what I expected. I expected it to be a little bit more like insidious and kind of less that I don't know how you describe it, but it was like campy.
Big goofy
campy
monsters.
Yeah, I thought it would be a little bit less campy. And yet so it was very fun.
We'll save your full opinion for later because I'm curious, but that's a fair point. But to continue with this movie's history just a little bit, he'd already had a Korean box office success with Memories of Murder, and he used that as leverage to make one of the most expensive Korean movies ever made up to that point, which was a mere $11 million US, but still one of the biggest movies up to that point. And it had a dual inspiration to be Korea's answer to Godzilla, and a real-life incident that came to light in 2000, where an American manager of the local military mortuary commanded his Korean employees to dump 24 gallons of formaldehyde into the Han River, which I had forgotten and is so ridiculous that I found the opening scene to be a little silly until I read that again.
It's so abrupt.
Yeah,
You're like, what is happening?
I really like this movie a lot, but that said, the first scene, and I've seen it many times, but the first scene I went, oh boy, this is a little on the nose. Is this movie more on the nose than I remembered it being? And the answer is no, that it's just that scene. But also I can't even really blame them because that actually happened. So
Real. Yeah.
You know, that guy, the real American who actually did that was probably just as unrealistically ridiculous as that guy.
Yeah, not to get into the movie, I still feel the execution of that scene could be better because it is the weakest scene in the movie, IMO. But it is crazy that really happens. Like, truth is stranger than fiction at all times.
Yeah, agreed. I think we might get more into this, but I think throughout the film too, having watched these earlier Godzilla movies, you know, where it's like the American, blah blah, you know, like that. It was fun to see a movie that was fully leaning into painting the Americans in this light and just running with it. And I was enjoying watching it.
Yeah, where's the
Very
lie?
much so.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, maybe anti-American's a little strong, but so American critical that here's our Pulgasari connection. Kim Jong-il actually complimented this movie for how anti-American it was.
It's good to always have those connects. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. Special effects were intended to be done by Weta Workshop, same as Lord of the Rings, but they were ultimately unable to take the job for reasons of schedule or budget, or both.
Wait, it was supposed to be the same people who did Lord of the Rings? Mm-hmm. But and what was the budget on that?
Hundreds of millions.
Right? Okay. And you said this one was 11 million or his last one?
This one was 11 million.
Okay, that's all right. Just interesting to take note of. Got it.
So in the end, John Cox, who did the animatronics for Babe, did the mechanical work.
Oh yeah, you know what? Hey, makes sense. Babe is good. I'll stick my neck out for how good Babe is. So, all right.
And
when you see a good script,
would we say that Babe 2, Pig in the City, technically is a Godzilla movie?
Does Babe get big?
No, but Babe traipsing around the city, you know, and people being shocked and horrified.
Is he just little as Babe?
Yes.
Anyway, Hachul Jong did have access to Weta's facilities. They felt bad, so they gave him like part of the facilities and the materials, and they would come by and advise. But this one Korean special effects director, designed and sculpted the monster almost single-handedly, which is hugely impressive. I was looking at my old DVD bonus features, and like the entire thing of him sculpting the monster is just people at Weta Workshop standing outside the window and being like, is he really doing this by himself? Like they're all just like talking about how crazy it is.
What was he sculpting it out of?
Clay. So you sculpt it to do the maquette, and then you base a mold off of that to make the rubber skin and all that stuff.
So wait, so the same person handles all of that?
Not
Under the
normally.
special
Usually it's a team.
Right. Okay. I'm like, this sounds like many hats to be wearing in the part of this process. To be sculpting and also probably knowing having the technical abilities to do special effects.
Yeah. And then finally, the CG was done by Hollywood outlet The Orphanage, which at the time was most famous for The Day After Tomorrow.
A movie that I fucking love.
Love that film.
And to bring it back to Godzilla, directed by the same director as Godzilla 98. Just saying.
Exactly. Which you could
Circles on
argue.
circles.
You could argue the host, Godzilla 1998, the closest Godzilla similarities in the looks of all of them in the franchise. So I think this is a beautiful full circle moment that we've just had.
Very true. That animation, a little shaky at times, but it was almost 20 years ago now. So, give him a little
That's how long ago? 2006. Wow, that's wild.
almost, yeah.
Spooky.
It is wild. It was a major success in Korea. It became the #1 movie of all time there. Of course, it's been beaten multiple times since, but it did hold that record for a time.
Yay.
And it was pretty successful in its US release as well, at least for an import subtitled film. It made a surprising amount of money considering that. And of course, got many awards and critics' best of list. And yeah, that's how. It's funny. I ended up seeing it because my high school chemistry teacher was like, "I saw this movie in the theater, The Host. It's kind of like Godzilla, but it's just this wild Korean movie." And I was like, "It's kind of like Godzilla."
Teenage Ryan opens up his notebook, immediately starts taking notes.
He's like so into it though. He's like, wow, I wish we had a host. And then you just cut to him pouring bottles down the drain in his chemistry class.
I was gonna say a chemistry teacher. That seems a little
Yeah, I know it's a little sus.
Scary.
Yeah, he was a strange guy, but he was a cool teacher. He would bring in his guitar and play 8675309. He had a book that would light on fire when he opened it through some sort of chemical reaction. Pretty sure you couldn't bring that into a school now.
Ryan, you say he's a cool teacher, and then you describe the least cool person I've ever heard of in my life.
He was cool for a 14-year-old Ryan.
He sounds like a great guy. I hope he's still doing well.
I hope so too. I don't remember his name, not that I would say it. Anyway. Okay, well, shall we go on to the synopsis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, before I start the synopsis this time, I know we usually only do this for new movies, but if you have any intention of seeing this, dear audience, please go watch it. Don't listen to this yet. You're going to enjoy it more if you don't know what happens. It's more thrilling, more interesting, I feel. Also, this is a long synopsis because it's a more complicated story than usual, so feel free to skip ahead if you know it. Okay, sound effects at the ready. In 2000, an American military pathologist orders his Korean assistant to dump 200 bottles of formaldehyde down a drain leading into the Han River.
Glug, 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 glug.
Toss in some for the hissing and burning. Over the next several years, there are sightings of a strange amphibious creature in the waterway, and the fish in the river die off. In 2004, a slow-witted man named Park Gang-doo, again, I apologize for my Korean, runs a small snack bar in a park near the river with his father, Hee-bong. Other family members are Gang-doo's daughter, Hyun-so, his sister, Nam-ju, a national medalist archer, and his brother, Nam-il, an alcoholic college graduate and former political activist. One summer day, a huge creature emerges from the Han River and begins attacking people, leaving many of them dead. In the chaos, the creature grabs Hyunso in its mouth and dives back into the river. After a mass funeral for the victims, government representatives quarantine people who had contact with the creature, including Gangdu and his family. It is announced that the creature is the host of a deadly, unknown virus. Thus the name of the movie. In the middle of the night, Gangdu receives a phone call from Hyunseo. She explains that she is trapped in the sewers with the creature, but her phone stops working. Gangdu and his family escape the hospital and purchase supplies from gangsters in order to search for Hyunseo. Two homeless boys, Sejin and Seju, after raiding Hibong's snack bar for food, are attacked and swallowed by the creature. It returns to its sleeping area in the sewer and regurgitates them, but only Seju is alive. Hyunseo helps Seju survive and comforts him. The Parks eventually encounter the creature and shoot at it, but due to Gangdu's mistake, Hibong is killed. Gangdu is captured by the army, and Namil and Namju become separated from each other. Namil meets an old friend who has, unbeknownst to Namil, contacted the government so he can claim the bounty, but Namil is able to escape after obtaining Hyunso's location. While in a military hospital, Gangdu overhears an American scientist say that no virus has yet been discovered. They decide to lobotomize Gangdu in hopes of either finding the virus in his brain or silencing him.
Wild.
Wild, indeed. When she thinks the creature is sleeping, Hyunseo tries to escape from its lair using a rope she has made from old clothes. The creature awakes and swallows Hyunseo and Seju. Gangdu succeeds in escaping from where he is being held by taking a nurse hostage. The government announces a plan to release a toxic chemical called Agent Yellow into the river to attempt to kill the creature. Gangdu finds the creature and sees Hyunso's arm dangling out of its mouth. He chases it to the location where Agent Yellow is to be released, coming across Namju and Namil on the way. The creature attacks the large crowd that is assembled to protest the chemical dump, and Agent Yellow is released, which stuns the creature. Gangdu pulls Hyunseo and Seju out of its mouth, but they both appear to be dead. Gangdu, enraged at his daughter's demise, attacks the creature, aided by his siblings. They set it on fire, and Gangdu impales it with a pole, finally killing it. As they mourn for Hyunseo, Gangdu manages to revive Seju. Sometime later, it is seen that Gangdu has inherited his father's snack bar and adopted Seju. They have a meal together, ignoring a news broadcast, admitting that the aftermath of the incident was due to misinformation. Woo!
Womp womp.
Womp, womp. That's this entire movie, is that trombone.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's start with the characters as we always do.
We have those.
First of all, yeah, we very much
really
have them
do.
as a rarity.
We really have some characters.
We have Gangdu, who is played by one of the greatest actors of all time.
Yeah.
Looking up his name, Song Kang-ho.
He is fantastic. Was he not even nominated for the Oscars for Paris? Does anyone know?
Parasite?
I
Yeah,
don't
he
know off
was.
the top of
He
my
was.
head.
Yeah.
Okay, good. But he didn't win, right? I think the Joker won, but he should have won.
That's heartbreaking.
That is heartbreaking, Frank.
I don't want to get into a whole thing, but I'm gonna offend someone, but my least favorite movie of the last 5 years is Joker. I really couldn't stand a moment of it. So that was all.
Are you excited for Joker Folie à Deux? Or Natalie, you could probably say it better, but the second one coming out next year?
Obviously, I'm extremely excited for it.
Yeah, he should have he should have won.
Wait, I think actually that might be misinformation. I think he was actually maybe.
I think he was.
I'm good. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check who was
I
nominated
think
for
he won
best
for
actor.
SAG.
Okay.
He didn't win. Yeah, I think, or he won at Cannes or something. But I'm looking up
He
who
may
was.
not have been nominated at the Academy.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah, which is a disgrace.
But I have to say something about the Joker very quickly. A friend of mine went to this guy's house thinking that something was going to happen between them. And on his wall is a canvas, print on canvas of Starry Night, but the Joker is like in it and like starry, like as it. And the way she ran, sprinted out the door. She took a picture. It's one of the most shocking things I've ever seen.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
Valid move.
It's a red flag on fire.
Yes.
I used to go to a barber who had one of those prints, just like you were describing, and it was like Leonardo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street and like the Joker, Tony Montana from Scarface, like all those types of characters like in a gentleman's bar. And when I first went in, I was like, should I be going to this barber? He turned out to be a nice guy, but it did make me have a second thought.
Yeah. It's kind of like, we've definitely said this before, but like in film school, there was like a very specific type of guy where you'd go into their, cottage cheese ceilinged white walled apartment.
Yes.
And they'd have like 5 movie posters, and they were all, for every one of these guys, it was Pulp Fiction, Magnolia, Dark Knight, Inception, and name a 5th one in that theme.
Yeah.
The free throw space. Boondock Saints.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, well, that's a run situation.
Okay, sorry. I looked up the Oscar nominees of 2020, and while Parasite is up for Best Picture and Best Director, none of the actors received nominations by the Academy, which, again, disappointed but not surprised. It's wacky.
It's very wacky.
Also, genuinely consider cutting out all of that, everything I just said, because I'm trying to be nicer and less hateful.
No. Listen, it's okay. People, it's okay to not be a fan of the Joker. It's fine.
We'll cut some of it, but I agree with a little film bro bashing, having been dangerously close to that person.
Ryan, me too.
Let's get on back to the characters.
All right, back to the movie.
He's great. He plays the perfect loser dad. You can tell all the way through he cares about his daughter, but he has this little arc where he has to learn to take care of himself.
In the very beginning, when they're running to go watch his sister play in the match, and he's running behind her. First of all, whoever costumed him did an amazing job with these like dirty, baggy sweatpants that he's wearing the whole time. When he's running behind her and he lifts up her backpack as she's still wearing it, and just to like hold it up for her a little. So sweet. And right there you go, yes, this is someone who should win an Oscar at some point. Just is like, it's such a fucking weird, random little thing to do, but it's so sweet. And I feel like cues in so perfectly to like the absurdness of this movie. And from that moment on, I went, I love this man. I really do. I mean, I already knew I did, but yeah.
To transition into the dad, I love how the grandpa is always like trying to make up for being a bad dad in the past. He's like, go easy on him, like trying to like explain how well he knows him. I love that line. I could tell just by his farts whether he's at an A+ or B- condition.
That's love.
And the other siblings are falling asleep as he's talking, and he just keeps going.
Yeah, there was a real undertone of narcolepsy throughout this entire film that I was
really
wondering about. But yeah, Song Kang-ho's character, it was the hair, the streaks in the hair that were just really funny to me. They're like these hair streaks mean this guy's got a few problems. And because the difference between the beginning, how he looks with the hair, and the end, you're like, oh, this is a full adult man.
Right.
At the end. In the beginning, you're just kind of like, huh? But yeah, I was just thinking about how he, when he finally, when he gets activated as a father, I was like, oh, he's Liam Neeson. This is Taken. He's the best father in the world. He's not giving up. He gets, so I was totally pro.
I have a particular set of squids. It's not good. I think it's a little odd. I see what you're saying about him, like the hair thing showing that he grew. I find it a little weird because if the whole idea is that he's not taking care of himself and he's stuck in Arrested Development, I have a hard time believing that he would take the time and care to bleach his hair. No? Because he did that.
I think it's more like, I don't think so. I think he went out and
out.
blew the money on like having a stylist do it, like impulsively.
See, I think he did it as a one-time thing and he dyed it himself. And I think it was a one-time thing and it's grown out. And so it wasn't like too much upkeep, I guess.
Or maybe his daughter did it for him.
That's true.
That's
She could have. There we go.
Why don't we send an email along to confirm the intent of the hair? Because these are the details that are very important.
Yeah. All of the little costuming details are so precise. And I love it. Just like the alcoholic brother who just has that slight patch of beard on his chin. Or the grandpa's like shopkeeper vest that's like worn and like bent from years of putting change in it and all sorts of shit. It's great.
And the sister's whole outfit, which was just making me think of Squid Games the whole time. She was like carrying that arrow around, maybe some inspiration from her for that.
That was super interesting. So the woman who plays the sister, Park Nam-ju, is one of the most acclaimed Korean women actresses there is. Bae Doona is like, and she has maybe one line in the entire film. She just like the rest of the time she's just kind of like staring through stringy hair,
looking intensely. Yes.
and shooting arrows. Maybe she had something else going on. She didn't have time to learn lines, but I was kind of just giggling at myself. I was like, what is happening? But I mean, she was effective, but she didn't say much.
Yeah. She was intense, but did not say much.
Her character is certainly the most opaque because we do get a sense of her. We know that she's hesitant to like take action. That's her mini arc. Is she runs out of time to shoot her last arrow, and so she can get bronze. She runs out of time to shoot an arrow at the host, and so she gets knocked into a culvert for like 20 minutes of the movie. And she's in one of the funniest scenes, which we'll come back around to. She's too slow to hop in the van when they're escaping the hospital.
Oh God, that's so good.
But she's also very like sharp and quick-witted. Like she's always ready with a comeback when people are like making fun of her or criticizing her. So I don't quite know what to read out of it either. But yeah, she's interesting.
I feel like he just, as he always does in his films, just nails this family dynamic of people who are like different, all doing different things, but just like when I think about my siblings, we're all very different people, but just this base level of family that comes across. He does so well, and I'm always very impressed by how he pulls it off.
Yeah,
I think too, especially after. Yeah, you go.
I was just saying my favorite stuff is the scenes with all of them together because it's like real. They're like basically the Royal Tenenbaums. Like they're so dysfunctional, and
Yes.
and the scene of them all at the memorial, kind of like leading into the hazmat guys coming in. Like that's really good. Really good and funny. I actually. Oh man, I don't. It's so hard to be negative about anything in this movie, but I think those work better. Them together works better than any individual character for me personally. Like I'll be a little bit of a. It's so hard. I'm judging this against other Bong Joon-ho movies, and I think the individual characters are a little less interesting to me in this than in some of his other movies, but collectively they're great and the ideas are really there. So for me, the scenes with them as a family really sing the most for me.
I would say that too. I think that for the individual characters, Gangdu and his dad, and then also Hyung-soo, is that how, right? I feel like I'm like, who the fuck is this little girl, man? She can really carry some stuff on her own for majority of the movie. But I guess saying that for Gangdu, for some of the scenes where he is in the hospital and trying to get them to, when he's like just getting his brain about to be taken out.
That was the
captive,
best.
all of those pieces.
That was so
he's
awesome.
Like, when he's activated, again, also the fight scene that happens at the beginning where he's like with that American dude and they're like the two of them trying to take on this monster. He's just impressive to watch across the board. Great.
Totally. I know this isn't a Japanese movie, but I assume that Seiju enters your annals of great little kids in monster movies, Joanne.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Considering having him on my list for the best of.
I kept thinking, watching all those scenes with her in the sewer,
so
just
good.
like what a crazy experience being like an 11-year-old actress where you have to sit through 3 hours of mud makeup every day would be. Just like so much time spent caked in mud.
Oh yeah.
And working with CGI or the whole time in your sewer. So she did a really good job just like kind of emoting and not bouncing really off of anybody and being muddy and probably kind of uncomfortable. And doing action stuff. I mean, she's badass.
Yeah, she's holding down those scenes basically on her own, and
I think
she has
too,
to get across who she is in this very like survival scenario where there's not much around to show that, and it's great.
Their relationship too. I feel like anytime I've seen it, it reminded me of from this past year. Well, I didn't play the game, but at least from the show, from Last of Us, Ellie and Sam's relationship. I feel like anytime you're showing a relationship in these high stakes scenarios where it's two children trying to take care of each other, it's just so sweet and endearing and really powerful to watch.
Yeah. And I would love to show you guys some of the clips from the audition of the little boy who played Seiju.
Stop
It's
it.
a few minutes, but it's worth it. It's so cute.
Yes.
Cry
Email them
so
to me
talk.
as well.
This is straight off my DVD, so it's going to stutter at the start, but it'll smooth out.
Ryan, I love these DVD features. Thank God for them. Okay.
동호군 같은 경우는 특히 이 아이가 어떤 다양한 표정을 갖고 있을까?
Oh my
I just
God.
love that.
I'm losing my mind. That was so cute.
He's so precious. And him improvising on the script kind of, oh my God. How old was he? Like 7, 6?
Gosh, somewhere around there, yeah.
I just looked into the actor and he now is an older person, but he went to USC. What? Joanna?
What?
Wow.
Which year? Fight on?
Fight on and did natural language processing and machine learning. I'm assuming it's the same guy, but hey, let's go.
Hit us up. No, how old would he be now? Older than me, right?
Wait, actually, maybe it's not the same guy. I'm not sure. There are probably a lot of the Donghos, but that would be cool. Okay, that might be
That would be
misinformation. I should probably look into it a little.
Natalie's spreading a lot
You're
of
just bringing so
misinformation
much
today.
disinformation, Natalie. Are you the American military?
One of our friends too works in casting, and anytime she has to cast children, she's always like, it's a nightmare because they see like 900 to 2,000 children and are like, oh my God, no one is a fit. So just to find such a perfect little child to joke around with in your office while he's auditioning is perfect.
Yeah. I love
Oh my
how
God,
he's
him
trying to
peeing his-
convince him that the monsters are real.
Yes.
But yeah, him
And-
peeing himself is horrible.
And him peeing himself anytime he's scared is just such a sad little kid thing because he's so like kind of feisty the rest of the time. Yeah, I think just in general, all the characters, kudos. They make the movie. Dare I say? I know, Ryan, you can fight. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the actual host himself, but I think it's the characters that make the film.
Well, to sort of play off of something Sam said earlier, there are more impactful, better written Bong Joon-ho movies, but what he wanted to do at the end of the day was tell a story about a family affected by a giant monster attack. And it does that really well because it has to encapsulate all of those things. So I think that it holds up the two sides of the stories quite well. And obviously the family side is the core of it. But it's meant to do both. And I think it does both pretty well.
Like, I think when the dad died, that really hit hard. That was, so sad. And then did you guys think that his daughter, Hyung-soo, was going to be dead at the end? I didn't either. I really thought she was going to make it.
Yeah, the first time I saw this, I was like, she's going to make it, right? And I was devastated. I was in tears.
I think, too, just the way in which the dad dies, like the bullet obviously not working. I feel like there are not, like, that's more those little realities, right? He grabbed the wrong girl's hand. He actually counted the bullets wrong. There's not a bullet left. They never show that. So I appreciated those kind of what would probably be more realistic in real life happening, and also had a kind of humorous, devastating effect. But
yes, humorous while devastating. There's a lot of scenes in this, like Sam mentioned the mass funeral.
Oh, it's the
which
best.
Is like, it's an incredibly depressing premise. This family coming together to mourn the little girl they all love that was tragically killed, and yet it becomes really funny really quickly just because of how like in despair they are, all rolling around the floor like little kids. And
I'm so
Namil
curious
kicks
too.
his brother in the face, and all the photographers are coming around and taking pictures of them. It's really funny.
I would love, Ryan, if your DVD outtakes have kind of the evolution of that. Like, I'm curious at what level they started with for absurdity for the first take, when he was like, all right, actors, just go a little wild, have fun with it. And then to what they eventually got, because, yeah, it is pretty. And it's one of those scenes, too, that you're like laughing along and then you're like, okay, now this is like a little, is it too long now? But then ultimately you appreciate the length for which you kept it going.
Yeah, there's a lot of those kinds of like campy, very like overacted moments in a lot of K-dramas. So that's what it kind of reminded me of. It's like a melodramatic moment that's both, there's like real emotion there, but it's also over the top and like kind of makes you laugh a little bit. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that leads right into an equally funny scene, which is the first hazmat guy coming in. First of all, he can't get people to like raise their hands. And then when he's turning on the TV is like a triple layer joke. Because A, he's inept at like finding the right channel. B, he doesn't have the confidence to like explain to the people himself what's going on. And C, it's a meta joke, how in like movies and TV, like the right news story is always on when you need it, but then it's not on when he needs it. It's so funny. It's so layered. It's amazing.
I thought another moment that he was playing into this grief, but actually humorous. I love when they're back and are waiting for their ramen. I think this is maybe after they've been in the sewers for a minute, and it looks like they're all sitting together like sad, grieving, but they're actually just waiting for the ramen to be cooked, and then they all dive in at the same time. Just very, very smart stuff. Chuckling along the whole time.
I remember when I showed the movie to my friends, that scene confused them so much because Hyun-soo shows up apropos of nothing. And
right.
Of course you're like eventually like, oh, they want her to be there. They want to take care of her, which is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But when you're like a teenager who hasn't seen a lot of art movies before, they're like, "What? Where'd she come from?" And I had to like pause it for like
This
10
movie is
minutes
great,
to
except
explain.
for that part. Yeah.
Yeah.
That part made no sense.
Yeah, that
I
was
felt like that
obviously a
was-
mistake.
I felt like Sam, like that was like, I agree. The scenes of them together, and then that scene where they were all so kind and soft and taking care of her and feeding her was like the real moment of relief that I had, or the moment of warmth that I had in the film, of just like seeing all these people who are kind of dirt bags, but nice, kind dirt bags show their
Yeah.
real like love and care, and like where they, and the point, basically the nucleus of like where they all connect, and so that was just like a moment where I was like, oh, this is great. And then of course it's ripped from you.
Yeah, or ripped right out from under you. The last character we didn't talk about, just to go briefly back to that, is Namio, the uncle, the revolutionary. He
Oh,
actually
he's great,
seems a little
too.
bit too young to have participated in the democratization of South Korea, but we'll gloss over that fact. But yeah, he's awesome. His moment to shine is really, well, he gets a few. The moment I just mentioned when they're at the funeral and he drop kicks his brother and he's like, "You grabbed the wrong girl's hand, you fucking idiot. My niece is dead." But also when he gets to go and meet his friend and get the cell phone.
That's like maybe
Gets to
my
be a little
favorite
bit
scene.
of an action star.
That might be my favorite scene in the movie. It's so good. No notes.
Yeah, it was like, I was like, how is he gonna get out of this? Because you don't totally get the sense beforehand that he's like a particularly smooth or cutting guy. Like, yeah, he went to college, but haven't we all? But and yet I was like, how is he gonna do this? And he was so calm, like he had a plan. It felt like The Prestige.
Oh,
and then he
kind of.
just
Yeah.
short circuits the lights with the paperclip, and he's gone. I was like, I had my respect. I don't know if that's a thing that can actually happen. I don't have much electrical
Let's all try it
expertise.
now and see what
Yeah.
happens.
I think too, it was so silly to just have like 20 government officials sitting in a dark little office room together. Like, just that absurdity that they weren't coming out immediately when he entered the building. They were like kind of really taking their time with it, crouching along. It was very farcical in that moment.
Oh yeah, that's the
And-
whole like sub theme of the movie, is how stupid people are and how hesitant they are to take action. Like in the first scene when the monster's attacking, like everybody's
Yeah.
just running around like fucking idiots.
No, even before that, they're all like, "Cool, throw your beer at
oh
it."
yeah,
See,
throwing
like
the beer and nuts in the
I
lake,
feel like
a
in
bunch
any
of.
other Godzilla movie we watch, right? Like the monster shows up, people are like, "Oh my god," run and scream. In this one, I so appreciated that long, maybe like 4 minutes, where they're like, "Oh, let's all just gather around and lean by the river." And even I thought the little specifics that he adds to for characters who were not main characters, like those two fishermen at the beginning, just that man saying, "That was my daughter's cup," you know, like that little moment of tenderness. And then I think when it pivots, when you meet, who's the little boy again? Seiju and his brother, when you meet them and like the way we meet them and start following them, how you almost think, oh, are they now going to be also two equally leading characters who I'm like following along in this film? I think it's impressive when you can pack in that much story and punch in just like a few tiny little moments that you're showing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like every small role in this is perfectly cast. When the American doctor comes up to Gangdu, the one with the lazy eye, and he's like, "Who did this?" Like, you think he's like gonna
Yes.
change things, like he's being sympathetic and reaching out to him, and then he immediately turns around and is like, "This guy's crazy. Like, we got to get rid of him."
Oh my god.
It's so great.
sad.
He's the same guy
Heartbreaking.
who plays one of the bug experts in Silence of the Lambs. Those are the two movies I know him from. But he's amazing in both parts.
He had a pretty good. Those are two good movies. Not bad for that guy's IMDb.
Laser.
Do you want-
Well, to jump back to the office scene real quick, I do love the The elder millennial moment where he's like, oh, it's so great you have a job. You're making like 60, 70K a year. And he's like, my credit card debt is probably 60, 70K. Very true and very funny.
A few other little humorous. I feel that too, the part where they were leaving the quarantine with the, truck and everything that they paid so much money for, when they take his wallet from him and then they go, so your passwords for everything are 1, 2, 3, 4. Just so true. I feel like I used to have that for a minute. Not anymore. And then also when just the brother being like, you paid this much money for this shit? These suits aren't even the right color. And then the dad just sticking to, we're going to say we're part of a different team. And like sticking to that when he gets questioned again. It just, so many good moments. Just want to make sure they're all highlighted.
Yeah, there's such a variety of kind of scene in this movie that I think is really smart. Like, it's really probably the only monster movie we've watched that does this, where it's just, the monster story implies, first off, they made a lot of choices that basically it's a monster movie, but it's a movie about a family doing a rescue mission, which much more contextualizes, just like what sorts of moments are going to happen in ways that are quantifiable to, just like it's really easy to go, oh, now all these things, we have an obvious perspective of who's going to be experiencing what and how we're going to be feeling about them, like, whose eyes we're seeing this through. But then on top of that, there's all this government conspiracy, stuff and the virus stuff, and so we are getting just like every single scene is this awesome, well plotted, well thought out scene that's totally different from the last. So you can have scenes like the breaking into the office building. You can have scenes like them trying to pass as one kind of worker in that van, and fool the guard. You can have scenes like just the regular family scenes, the actual like raid on the monster's lair. It's like there's so much, and even like just good kind of satirical scenes, like the bit with where we just see the one guy coughing and spitting into the gutter, and then
oh my God, yeah,
getting splashed. Which I remember during COVID, like early COVID, April of 2020, like a boomer relative on Facebook, there was like a video going around between boomer relatives of like, oh, this is what it's like, and it was that scene from The Host of like, ha ha ha, this is COVID for you. And me just being like, I've seen that movie, I know what that's from, and it's very funny. It means it's pertinent, but it's also very funny that that's the context that it's being used in now.
Right.
But yeah, there's just a really like refreshing variety of stuff that we get to see in this movie.
Yeah, and I feel like as a result of it, so much, it's a 2-hour movie, which is a little longer, but I feel like so much happens over the course of 2 hours, but you stick with it because the pacing is varying so much. And like you were saying, Sam, the different variety of scenes you're seeing is keeping you engaged throughout. Well, he knows what he's doing as he's
no, I don't think I'm alone in thinking he's like one of the best filmmakers around right now. I know it's not like he's the real deal, but he's also a thing I really like about Bong Joon-ho is it's like you look at the best filmmakers around, and I think some of the best technical filmmakers don't necessarily tell the cleverest stories. So I don't want to name any names, but you get like some who make, these giant 3-hour action films about. I'll just say that there's some like 3-hour action films with blue people, where it's like the technical filmmaking. That guy is one of the best technical filmmakers around, but the stories aren't particularly clever, And then you get people who tell really clever stories but aren't the best technical filmmakers. And then Bong Joon-ho is like he's both. It's he has like it's extremely well shot and well made, but also all of his movies. I'd say all of his Korean language movies are extremely clever and funny and interesting and and non-obvious in their actual stories too.
Yeah, super layered. And that's something I was thinking about through this is just also, we have the message of family and people looking out for each other and that as a focus, but also just at the end of the day, it's also, let's say, Americans who tend to create problems and then go in and try to be the heroes to try to fix them, and don't necessarily do a good job of cleaning up their own mess. And how the irony, the like sick irony throughout this whole thing is all these things. This family goes through so much, and they're just kind of like, it feels to me like, I was just thinking about, they were just kind of like these like puppet, they're like in a box, and like these so far removed from the Americans who caused this, and they're going through all of this, and then at the end it's like, it's as if their stories didn't really exist, because then, you know, at the end it's just kind of like, oh man, that was a fluke. And you know, and these people just like their entire lives were ruined and completely ripped apart. So there's just something of like, just Bong Joon-ho's mind is so he really just thinks about the subtext, or also just like the bigger picture, as well as like the tiny minute details that you fixate on until you go, whoa, 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 whoa. If I zoom out, this is actually what a bigger story is. It's just like so interesting to me. There's like so much to kind of chew on there.
Yeah, you're totally right. Like every layer from the micro to the macro is like tuned in.
I think too, even at the end, like that final scene with all the Agent Yellow and showing how everyone who's protesting there is being impacted by it. Like all throughout the movie, right, we have these like kind of satirical scenes, we have these kind of humorous scenes, these big action scenes, but that scene is totally heartbreaking, how he sets it up and runs it. And I think it's a pretty long one, right? Like I have no context for the time, but yeah, that too, how he's able to take that micro story of this dad just trying to get his daughter, but within the context of this larger political event that's happening. And for a point in the story too, when the American says that there's not actually a virus taking place, what was their plan to just continue to act as if there was, to control the people, right? That's
it's kind of unclear, but my interpretation is they're pressing that story as long as possible to make following the responsibility harder. Like the further you are from the formaldehyde dump and the more chaos that happens,
right,
the less likely you are to be able to prosecute someone.
Yeah,
that's exactly how I saw it too. It was just like, if we continue to pretend that this is a big problem and a big convoluted problem and focus on this, then you don't really focus on how we got here.
Yeah.
Which, to go off Sam's mention, seeing this post-COVID is a trip. You could certainly show it to your conspiracy theorist uncle and he'd be like, oh, I knew it. This is such a truth-telling movie. I think you can separate it from that narrative because it makes its point for very different reasons.
One more thing, which is kind of interesting, when Joanna was saying it kind of takes its time and it's longer. We have scenes like people throwing the stuff in the river and all that, and like it's really interesting because, and it's something I've kind of learned more just in the last couple of years when I've been doing more editing, is like, if you can get the example in editing is like you get previs or stunt viz of an action scene, and so I'll just make a hypothetical one where it's like it's two cars racing down a street and shooting at each other, and you watch it and it's like, yeah, it's 2 minutes long, it's like it's a little boring, like it's not like that exciting, it's kind of it feels a little long, and then you edit it and with real footage and you start putting in shots and moments of like, okay, that car is swerving behind that other car, and you have a moment of a shot of the person driving the front car looking into the rearview mirror. Now we have a rearview mirror. Oh, he sees that car, registers it, steers. He does that. He's making a decision now where we've we've made him, we now know why he's doing the thing, and that's what leads to the next moment. And you are literally making the scene much longer. It's much longer, but it feels way shorter, and it's much more interesting. And it's like, I think this has that, where it's like, if you just did video game mentality, macro view of that first scene of the monster running around, killing, eating people, when he first comes out of the river, you go, oh, so he like gets out of the river, runs this way, comes back this way, people are screaming, he goes into that trailer, kills a bunch of people. Like, a not as thoughtful mind would go, well, that's not nearly exciting enough. And a smarter mind would say, well, actually, it's far more interesting, because that's not the point isn't what the monster is just doing moment to moment. It's the decisions that our character is making about, running and then, changing his mind and realizing he needs to go fight the thing. And then now he's going to free the people. And it's like, it's just, I find it to be far more exciting, an exciting way to actually do a scene like that. And so for me, the throwing the trash in the river is more interesting than the monster doing some awesome thing for no reason.
Yeah, totally agree. Especially like the excitement of thinking that maybe our hero or the other people around, or that random American guy, are going to figure out, or they're trying to think in real time how they're going to stop this. And it was just, that was exciting to me too, to be like, okay, if I was in that situation, what would I do? And then you see him like straight up rip off a giant signpost, and I was like, is that possible? But okay, I'm gonna suspend my disbelief.
That
here.
American guy is like breaking up concrete with like his parents.
Yeah, and that was really exciting too, to be like, okay, like what are the things that you could find around you to try to take down this monster and stuff, and that made it so much more thrilling.
And then you get the added bonus, this is the Bong Joon-ho special, is that it's that clever, but you in other people could come up with the idea that he starts running, falls, and then grabs a girl's hand and it's not his daughter. But Bong Joon-ho shoots it in a shot where it's like a magic trick, where it's all in one shot, so we feel like the character does, where we're like, whoa, wait a minute, like it's just, that's that like intersection of good idea and just like, really chef's kiss execution.
I always think of that scene and just how well it conveys the horror of his realization. Like, it's not just the expression on his face, it's the music, it's the way he really thinks.
And
he has his daughter.
There are a million movies that'll go, let's just shoot this whole scene in one shot for no reason. Just like, oh, because it's a show off. There are movies that do long shots to show off, and then there are movies that do it to be so effective. For a scene like this, like, it's so smart to do a long shot like that, where we, there's no cheat. It's just like we feel exactly like the character does.
And so effective. And I think too, at the end, that final scene, like the personalization of, again, this larger moment happening of these protesters and this Agent Yellow that's going off and is devastating to see the effects of, and then to see the payoff of, as they're killing the monster, there's the alcoholic brother who's actually using soju for flamethrowers, and him just throwing so many bottles, failing to make it, that homeless man who he met, who was like, whatever, I'm bored, happening to be there to pour everything into the monster, her picking up what the brother failed to hit and using that with her arrow to finally, like, make him implode into flames, and then getting the final payoff of that sign once again to stab him at the end. It's like very, I feel like in a not well-made movie, like, you could see the moments being reused sometimes as like corny or cheap, but they're so well earned and so effective. That payoff of him stabbing the monster at the end, it makes you feel like you're like watching a little sporting event or something. You're so engaged with it. You're like, go team.
Yeah, and Bong Joon-ho is so good at making people so pathetic, but you're still rooting for them.
Yeah.
Like, he's throwing the flamethrower, the last one, and it falls. You're just like,
and he's not even close. Like,
no.
before he even throws it, it's so far away that before he did it, I was like, in my head as a viewer, I went, that's so far no normal person would make it, but this is a movie, so he'll probably make it. And then he doesn't make it. And you're like, oh my God, right? Because you wouldn't make that fucking shot.
And it's so deeply funny. And it's like, and
Yeah.
it really helps. And then, of course, like, then you also have Bong Joon-ho's, like, love of kind of playing around with class. And the idea that this homeless guy is the one who has the smartest idea of anybody throughout this entire story. Not the military, not the one guy in the family who went to college, not literally, like, no, but not even and then our Archer, of course, she's the one who really is the ringer, but that to me was like, yeah, of course, the homeless guy, the one who gives him his bed, gives him somewhere to sleep on, like, saves his life ostensibly, and then has this fantastic idea. It's just like, that was very satisfying to see as well.
Yes. I do like that moment, and the guy who plays him is very funny. But I will say that the existence of that character is one of my few criticisms of the movie, because it really seems like they put him in there because they just needed another body to dump the gasoline, and they couldn't figure out how to get someone else up there. Because it could pay off the scene where they see it standing in the rain and drinking. But the homeless man wasn't there for that. The siblings were, so it would have made way more sense to have the sibling, like, call back to, like, oh, I remember when it was standing in the rain and opened its mouth, like, maybe it'll respond the same way to the gas. So I don't know, that bumps a little bit for me, but I'm really looking for something to not like.
I understood. Yeah, I'm kind of with Ryan. I understand the social commentary behind having that guy. I just don't think there's a lot to that guy. And that's my...
Yeah, they could have given him a little more to...
Yeah, or you know, perhaps just not at him. But at the same time, I'm not mad at a weirdly gung-ho homeless man who, you know, just jumps right into the fight. Like, the idea is kind of fun. It's just, I thought a little, it's like a little bit more of a stretch than some of the other stuff in the movie.
When was he standing in the rain? The drinking, the monster?
The monster guy.
It's
when they were in the trail, they're...
Right, it's right before the grandpa gets killed. It's when they start the gun battle.
Oh,
like,
right.
Gangdu wakes up and they open the window and it's standing there drinking the rain.
He's outside of the trailer. I remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
What did everyone think of the monster? You know, since this is the podcast.
Yes, we got to get around to the monster eventually.
We're supposed to talk about it.
I like it. To play off of something Sam said, it's just strong enough. Like, we don't see it, like, burst through a concrete building or, like, spray acid at people, but it has the ability to, like, swiftly get in, kill someone, and get away. Like, it has that great swinging motion, like, where it's like a gymnast and it goes from tail hand to its front hand, and then the tail hand flipping over and over. And we get a variety of moments with it. We get a couple of rampages at the beginning, and then we get the stuff in the sewer, which is great. It's almost like a rule of three joke. Twice it visits, and it drops people off, and then it eats, like, whoever it's going to eat. And then the third time, you think it's going to happen again and again. The characters think it's going to happen again. And you get that horrifying and disgusting moment of it just vomiting all those bones all over the sewer.
Not really. Again, yeah, he keeps you on your toes. You're thinking, okay, I'm like a little more relaxed. You know, these characters are going to be okay. And then he vomits all those bones up. I think the monster, too, I think when he's hanging from the bridge is among his spookiest moment, very alien-esque. And anytime he jumps into the water, maybe it's a woman. I'm assuming the monster's a he. Maybe it's a she. Who knows? But that tail jump of holding a human into the water, what was it? The Orphanage Company who did the animation on that? They did some great work on that part of it.
The scene in which she's trying to escape and then tries to escape, can't, fails, a big theme in this film. And then the monster's still sleeping, has gotten her in his clutches, and then puts her down. I was a little confused, as I was like, are we sleeping? Okay, maybe it's just a reflex. It's still asleep. But then it was pretending to be asleep, because then when she moved, it tried to pounce. So but she seemed to know that. So that was something I was trying to figure out too. It's like, what is this monster's game? What does it want? What are its
It
motivations?
wants drama. It just wants drama.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wondered that too. I couldn't tell exactly what was happening with the eye, if she could tell if it was awake or not, but it seemed maybe he's just kind of a dick and was trying to fuck with her.
It's hard to say, but I like that we don't know everything about the monster. There's a lot of mysterious stuff going on. Like towards the end, it seems to be getting more mutated as a result of the exposure to Agent Yellow. Like the skin texture changes, and a live fish is like born out of it, like
Yeah.
like a little offspring or something, and it's never explained, but it works. It's just grotesque, and you just wonder like what would go on with this thing if it escaped and just kept mutating and growing.
Was that what they were alluding
So as
to?
a
at
monster lover, it is satisfying.
Yeah.
I have a question
Sorry.
for my Godzilla experts. Do we usually in these films see the monster so early on? Or is it more like the suspense builds and then you finally see the monster? Because that was like I said in the beginning, that was the moment I looked up because I was like, oh, we're seeing this right away.
Oh, Natalie, there's never any suspense.
Okay.
No,
No.
but except there are some movies where Godzilla might show up like an hour in, but you
Yeah,
always like
I'm kidding.
know.
I'm joking. But they usually don't play it. It's not like a Jaws situation in all these movies where like there's really a suspense as to what the monster is. Usually they're like, yeah, this is gonna be Godzilla and Mothra. We'll be upfront about it. Sometimes Godzilla doesn't show up until late, but that's because a different
They're
monster
always
showed
talking
up.
about him.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it seems to be an almost East versus West philosophy, or maybe it's just different approaches to special effects. But yeah, it's in these movies. There's rarely like you don't see the monster till the end. They give it to you. They give it a big splashy intro early on, and of course both approaches can work well, just depending on how you make the movie.
And then, Natalie, in some movies, they fight the monster for 20 minutes and it's not effective. And then 10 minutes later, they fight the monster in a big pit again for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So this film is nice that they're not just shooting at the monster for 40 minutes.
Yeah, that was an interesting moment at the end where it seemed like the Agent Yellow was working. And then it just it just starts attacking when he gets mad about the death of his daughter. So wasn't totally clear to me what was really affecting it, but it seemed fire and sticking a pole in its innards was helpful. That I don't know about you guys. To me, that was the most disgusting part when he was pulling his daughter out of what looked like,
So
a
gross.
rectum.
Awesome. Yeah.
And they were, and that her and that little boy were just holding on to each other was so sad, and it was so disgusting at the same time. Yeah.
A very, very sad moment. But yeah, we see at the end the monster has like an extendable esophagus.
Ugh.
I
feel like are all
kind of like a
it feels like-
prolapse. It's
It
horrible.
feels like 90% of monsters are set up to have this kind of like plant. What is that plant that eats things?
Venus
It's in-
flytrap.
It's in Little Shop. I feel like the one in Stranger Things
Demogorgon.
are like most monsters. They just have that's just kind of their setup for their mouth. I feel like it always comes up.
Yeah, it's like
That was the one piece. I was like, oh, here it is again, another flower mouth monster.
yeah, it was like flaps with a hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's all we could dream up.
I guess it comes from the Predator. That's the earliest one I can
Mm.
think of that has that mouth. But I don't know. They keep using it because it works. But yeah, I laughed when I saw the Quiet Place monsters for the first time because I was like, you just
Was
made
it
a
the same?
legally
Are they the
distinct Demogorgon.
They're all the same. One day we'll come up with something else. It is creepy, but yeah. When at the end, when there is it's snowing and they're eating together, are they kind of alluding that something else is out there again? Maybe out of the fit, like, wasn't he
I think
looking
that's
out the
up to
window?
you. To me, I always take it as he's traumatized by
Got
the
it.
experience. Like
I've
it's
maybe
showing,
been.
it's like a bittersweet ending where this little boy now has a much happier life, and things turned out for the dad as best you can when your daughter dies, but he's still traumatized and there's still a lot left unresolved. That's my takeaway.
I like that take better. I saw it as, oh, here they go, setting up a, what's it called when they
Sequel.
setting up the fucking sequel. I like your take better.
I don't want to criticize the CGI of the monster because it's a boring thing to do. And the filmmaking is just so good that I love all of it. It is funny and kind of a bummer that probably the shot where the CGI holds up the worst is the shot where the monster actually dies. Like that kind of, you know, it was, who knows why, but that's kind of a bummer. It's like, oh, it's a little like wind out of the sails, but good. The other thing I think I've seen this probably 4 or 5 times, and something I don't think I ever put together until this watch, but I was tickled by, is I'm going to assume that the reason that the host is eating people is because it developed a taste for human blood from the guy who jumped off the bridge.
That was my takeaway, too. Because, they say they find that guy half eaten.
Yeah. Yes. So it probably wouldn't have been eating people until it found out how delicious human meat was.
I like the logic build, Hill. I just assumed monsters. I wasn't thinking
That's
about that.
I think one of the darkest things I've ever heard. Because, and you think, it tasted not only the blood, but it tasted the sadness and the desperation and couldn't get enough. And maybe that's why it plays with its food, because the more desperate and sad it is, the more delicious.
Well, you just wrote the lyrics. You just wrote the lyrics to a Nine Inch Nails song.
That's bleak shit. One other piece too, just building, I know we've spoken to kind of his representation of government in this, but the fact that the government's soul, all they're going after is finding these 4 family members. You get hardly any, I don't think we saw a single conversation where, I guess there's the Agent Yellow, but leading up to that, there's no, we have to trap this monster, we got to stop the monster, we're going to have guns. Seemingly, there are 200 people running about in the world to try to find these 4 family members. Just the...
Yeah, and it's...
Total
you get hints of
misplacement.
why. Because the, response director is talking about how they had, companies coordinated and they had the shifts, and then somebody butt in because it's profitable to, get these government contracts. It's more profitable to drive trucks around the city in circles than to, make a concentrated strategic effort to go hunt down the monster.
Right.
But also back to what Ryan was saying, if you concentrate on the family and the virus, then you concentrate less on the monster, then you concentrate less on how the monster was created and who's responsible.
Yeah.
Right. Versus saying, hey, this family is these are the bad guys. This is who we have to get.
Exactly. You need a villain.
We need a villain.
All right. Let's go to the judgments. As Godzilla evangelists, it is our holy duty to assign each movie its proper place in Godzilla heaven, purgatory, or hell. If heaven being the best, purgatory in the middle, and hell being the worst. I think we've totally given away the ghost on this one, so I may as well start. As Easy Heaven, almost certainly the best movie we've covered on this podcast.
Ryan!
The original Godzilla and King Kong, also great movies. Legitimately, unreservedly great movies, but this one is just hitting on almost all levels. And if you've never seen it, you gotta, yo. And this isn't meant to be a slam on Godzilla. This is just its own other thing, and it's great for all the reasons we talked about. Let me see if I can find one more thing to compliment just to drive this home. To go back to the scene where they're all having the fantasy about feeding and taking care of Hyun-soo. it cuts from that to her like holding out her hand to try to collect just a little bit of rainwater, just the tiniest
my
bit of something
God.
to drink. It's an amazing, heartbreaking cut. Joanna, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, heaven for me, for everything. The pacing, the characters, the casting, the acting, the costuming, the hair dye. Every little moment is just so specific and really helps to create this full world that you're invested in and that you care about these characters, again, as Natalie said, even though they're like very much the underdogs and underdogs in a sense that you're like, these people kind of, do they suck in some ways? But no, we love them. And I think that, as with many of his projects, his ability to have so many elements layered into one scene of breaking your heart and also making you chuckle and also having you hold your breath because you're scared, it's very impressive. And I'm so glad that we watched this film so that now I've seen it once and I can watch it again many times.
I say that between those options, I would say somewhere between purgatory and heaven for me. I'm a little bit more middling on it. Maybe it's like in the ascent to heaven, like it's halfway through. I thought I would have more of an enjoyable experience. I'd be more rapt than I was. I think maybe I just went in with super, super, super high expectations. I think just for me personally, I need a few more moments of joy and delight. Not necessarily because it's like a happy moment, but I think I just needed a few more of that. I felt like the patheticness of the characters, as much as they had heart in their own ways, just didn't. It kind of lost me a little bit. And then the monster, I expected it to be a little scarier than it was, but I can applaud it for the things that I think were really clever, and there were some moments, but I think overall it didn't leave me with a sense of like awe and, I don't know, chewing on ideas as much as I thought.
I'm kind of honestly glad you said that, because it's a heaven for me. And I think, to Ryan's point, it's really hard to compare movies from, recently to kind of like classics, because it's like, if you're just talking about, you're trying to measure greatness of movies, it's like, original Godzilla, original King Kong are super influential in different ways. So it's kind of hard to be like, this is greater than those. It's really, I can't say that. I mean, this is heavily influenced by Godzilla. So it's kind of like, what do you do? So I that's why I stay out of those arguments entirely. It's my favorite one that we've watched for the podcast, probably by quite a bit. It's really, really well done, and it has a lot of great ideas. But I agree that the sum of it isn't like, it doesn't make a personal favorite movie all time for me either. Like, it has so many great ideas and so many great parts, and it's so fucking well made that watching it, I'm like, oh man, this is why I love movies, is seeing moments like this. But it's probably like my third or fourth favorite Bong Joon-ho movie. Like, there are a couple I'd put ahead of it, at least a couple, if not, maybe three. So, and it's because I think the totality of it, I admire all the ideas, but it doesn't, as a whole, satisfy me the way some of the other ones kind of do. So yeah, it's still great, and it's a heaven. But Parasite, I think, is just so good that it's like, what do you even do with that? And I love Memories of Murder. I think Memories of Murder rocks, and I have that ahead of it. And I'd have to rewatch Mother to see how I feel with that one versus this one, because I had a similar feeling to this, where I went, man, that's so well made moment to moment. I don't know how I feel about it in totality, but it would be between those two for like third and fourth for me.
And I will add too, I think kind of more succinctly, I felt more sad throughout the film than that I felt like humor. I wasn't, as a movie that's supposed to be satirical and funny, I wasn't as tickled throughout as much as I thought I would be. I was actually kind of more bummed.
Yeah.
It's funny. Normally, I'm with you. Like this is like a meme between me and Sam at this point. But when In Bruges was promoted as like one of the funniest comedies of the year,
Yeah.
I watched it way back then, and it was. I hate that director. I hate that movie. But it's like it's funny. It's funny what kind of dark comedy will click for me and what won't. And for some reason, this clicks for me. I like pathetic characters who have to come together to be something better. So it hits there. It hits because it's my favorite kind of movie made by my favorite working director. So there's a lot of personal things that help it like plug into place. But yeah, definitely not a perfect movie, but very, very well made in almost every way.
I think I would say that too. Like, I feel like the humor, I was almost lightly chuckling the whole time. So whatever he was doing, for my personal taste, it kind of like hit through. Like, I feel like I had this light little like happening throughout a fair amount of the film.
And Joe, I would recommend, I also really love Okja.
Yeah, I need to see
That is I mean, it might be tough because you are a flexitarian, but
right.
but
Just like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was, rough. No, I'm kidding.
right, but it's very self-aware, and so that
Yeah.
I think won't be like offensive to you. I think that's the whole point, is to question and examine these industries. But that's also a great one that it's super top of my list.
The one that's the kind of controversial, because I don't think there's a single movie of his that isn't at least extraordinarily well made and interesting. The kind of controversial one for me and for people friends of mine, is Snowpiercer, because to me, when I earlier kind of said like his Korean language movies are so clever, there was something for me that got lost in translation with that one, where it's more kind of on the nose and heavy-handed to me personally, and so it's not a favorite of mine, but it's so well made. And I had it was when I was working in title design stuff, and I had a lot of coworkers and friends where English was not their first language, and they were like, this is the one, this is the one that it's his best one. And I was like, yeah, it's like, it feels kind of stilted dramatically or something. Like, and not that you would ever blame someone, if English, I couldn't, well, first off, I couldn't direct a movie in English. I couldn't direct a movie in Korean or in any other language, especially. And so it's like, so it's like, it's not, I don't want to blame them, but that's one that some people just adore and is the one that fell the flattest for me. But I'm watching this, I kind of went, oh, but I remember all these great things about it. Maybe I need to rewatch it. So this is making me want to do a Bong Joon-ho rewatch just in its entirety.
Of a ton of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
haven't seen his first movie, Barking Dogs Never Bite, because I've heard it's a little rough. It's a little first movie-ish. And I also haven't seen Okja, because my wife saw it and was just like weeping hysterically. And it's hard for me to watch movies without my wife now, so she never wants to see it again. So I have to find a time to watch
Silently watch it
by
alone.
myself. But yeah, I would put Parasite at the top. This is number 2, but like self-aware that it should be number 3 behind Memories of Murder. But because it's a monster movie, I like it more. Those two are very close for me.
I think no, sorry, finish.
I was just going to say Mother and Snowpiercer bringing up the rear, but still both great movies.
Yeah. I think, thesis on this one of fantastic film, and then especially when looking at it within the context of the monster world, to be able to make such a close and personal story so effective while carrying in all the other elements. Ryan, I was shocked though when you said maybe the best of everything we've seen. I feel like Godzilla let out a sad little cry as you said that.
I didn't say my favorite.
That's true.
King Kong
okay.
versus Godzilla is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time, despite being, when I think of it objectively, a much worse made movie than this. So it's not just trying to be objective.
Yes, I can appreciate that.
To anger everyone, because I really want to anger the fans of the Godzilla series,
Yes.
to bring this to Godzilla. Sometimes when I complain about choices made in the Godzilla series. And I think especially with kind of like mostly the 90s and early 2000s movies that felt like they started just going, let's just go back to what we've always been doing. Let's just do kind of a twist on classic Godzilla, you know, with to me not a lot of innovation, you know, with beyond a couple little things. Seeing this, I like, not that I mean, again, it's hard to hold anyone else to the standard of one of the best living filmmakers, but it does have a lot of things it does, like the variety of scenes and the choices of making it a rescue mission within a monster movie that I wish sometimes, not always, sometimes I wish some of the Godzilla movies, you know, would step back and say, hey, let's try a little spin, a little, let's try this. Maybe it won't be as good as The Host, but most movies ever are not. And so I think it's not just, when I criticize Godzilla movies, it's not me just going, these suck. Like, it's like, you know, you just like, let's try some stuff. Let's, you know, that we see an example of something that did something really cool. And I would love if some of these other movies that I largely like would break out of the box a little bit and do some stuff, try some stuff. And occasionally they do.
Sam, maybe Apple TV series is going to bring it home for us, you know? Holding out hope they're going to have.
I saw an early review that was very positive. Obviously,
Really?
That's no guarantee, but it was a good sign. Yeah.
Strong characters and yeah.
Yeah, they said they finally gave time for character development, which would make sense with the TV
a big
show.
Well,
It's got Kurt Russell in it, who
does
even
have
when you
Kurt
give
Russell.
Kurt Russell no character development, he's still great to watch.
Yeah, character development's great as long as the character is actually good, instead of like, I lost my child. It's like, yeah, we could spend 30 minutes developing you, but I don't want to spend 1 minute with you. So
Yeah, it's something we've talked about a lot. Godzilla can be the focus of any kind of movie. There's so many Godzilla movies that haven't been made. The Godzilla horror movie, the Godzilla comedy, well, I guess Son of Godzilla is the Godzilla family movie. They made that and they did it really well. But you know, you can put him in all sorts of genres and like little mini stories.
How about Godzilla in a farce,
that would
you
be
know?
fun to
Let's
see.
throw him in, see what happens.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Natalie. I really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Natalie.
Thank you for having me and for reigniting my Godzilla flame, as always.
And the Bong Hive flame.
Of course, Bong
For
Hive, always buzzing.
for relighting your bond.
Exactly.
Thanks for relighting my bong, bro. And with that very professional statement, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Sure. If you watch things on Netflix, make sure to go visit Netflix's companion site, on which I am an editor, tudum.com, Tudum. And it's kind of like DVD extras, the ones like we watched here, where you can check out all of behind the scenes stuff, extra interviews, how things were made. Any question that you might have, we've got the answers. So yeah, come check it out and fuel your fandom.
Is that your tagline?
Kind of, but it's my spin on it.
Got it. But yes, go check that out. I don't know what next episode is going to be, but please send us more letters and reviews. We need more stuff to read. We did a bunch of episodes in a row, so I really cleaned out our storehouses. But yeah, send us messages via email or YouTube comment. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Share us with other people.
And just want to say
Live.
thank you again one more time for coming to the live show, because it was such a fun time that we had.
It
best
really
time.
was. But you know what? You don't have to wonder what it was. You can right now buy a virtual ticket and you'll get the video and audio recording. So you can see exactly what happened that crazy night of November 4th. All right. Well, as always, thank you so much for listening and keep spreading the word of Godzilla. Godzilla Evangelists
a Geek Stew Network podcast, is brought to you by me, Ryan Sargent, and my friends Joanna Brodecki and Sam Schlenker. This episode was edited by Brogan Malloy. All our incredible music is composed by Robert Mai, and our wonderful artwork is drawn by Cassidy Stone. Special thanks to our families, friends, and the wonderful artists who made the movies we talked about today. Godzilla Evangelists is a satirical, critical work not affiliated or endorsed by Toho, Legendary Pictures, or anyone behind the Godzilla series. Visit our website at GodzillaEvangelists.com. We're also on Twitter at GodzillaCast and Instagram at Godzilla Evangelists. If you prefer to listen to us online, we have a YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you join us next time. In the meantime, keep spreading the word of Godzilla.